Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Abbi Rainier on the podcast, coming to us all the way from Ohio to share her health and fitness journey. She's only 18 years old, everyone, so she's already making me feel like an old ancient person, but we won't get into that because I want to feel a little bit better during this podcast, but she's on here to share her health and fitness journey and, share things all health and fitness with us. So most importantly, she's our current guest. Abbi, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I got to ask first of all, what is the weather like in Ohio today?
Today it is raining and it's about 40 degrees, so not snowing, but it was snowing on Christmas Day, so we had a little white Christmas.
That was nice. At least we had a little bit of snow 2 days before Christmas, so we had snow on the ground for Christmas, and yeah, it's like 10 degrees now, but hey, you get used to it after a while. But before I get into that, because I mean, that's just a depressing story that no one wants to hear. Abbi, why don't you give us your backstory first off on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're currently at right now?
So basically, when I was 11, I started watching WWE with my dad. And so we had been hooked on that ever since. And when I was 11, I came up with the dream of
My
being.
Macho Man Randy Savage doll, or figurine that I got here.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love it. So yeah, I knew that I wanted to be a performer and I wanted to do that someday. I had already been dancing since I was 2 years old, so I knew that I wanted to be a performer, but just not necessarily a dancer. And then I saw wrestling, and it's performance and it's choreographed, and there's a lot of acting, and which is what I really do love also. So I was like, "Yep, that seems perfect. That's for me. I'm gonna do that one day." And my dad had been weightlifting ever since college. Now he's taken some time off and on, but basically we had a home gym. Well, we have a home gym in our basement, and I would see him working out and lifting, and he's like, "You know what, Abbi, if you really want to throw around some women one day, you should probably lift some weights." So it seemed pretty mundane and boring, but at the age of 12, I picked up a composition notebook, started recording my lifts, and the rest is history. So I've been at this for about 5 years.
Wow, that's impressive because most girls, at 12 aren't really thinking about, hitting the gym and stuff like that. So that's amazing. But what was the one thing that you think you probably struggled with most when it came to start working out? Because everyone always has that one thing with the gym that really they struggle with.
Yeah, so I was really intimidated, not by like comparing myself to other people or other women, because to be honest, there weren't really a lot of women at the gym. Um, but I was just I would see all these big muscle dudes, and if there was a machine and it looked intimidating, I wouldn't go to it. I didn't squat at a gym until like 2 years into lifting. So I think the fear of just being judged and doing something wrong just always like kind of hung over me. But even though my dad was always there to help, I just, for some reason, I was so embarrassed of failing in front of these big muscle dudes.
Yeah, I mean and I can remember when I was a freshman in high school, my brother was a senior and he was the starting quarterback. So all eyes were on me when I was in the gym. So I can somewhat understand what that feeling's like. And yeah, that's one of the reasons that I always talk about where a lot of people don't get started working out is because they have that fear. So, but yeah, that's just it's one of those things that happens. But I always say if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape. Whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, how many exercises they do, how many reps they do. So many little things add up into that overall package that people end up seeing. Where if you were to walk up to someone and say, "Hey, what'd you train for that body part? It looks amazing." What works best for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you. What was that individual journey like for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for your body? Because it's always ever evolving and it's, person to person.
Yeah, so I started out with a 3-day split, which was arms and squats, chest, back, and traps, and then shoulders and deadlifts. So, and then like for each lifting session, I would do about 5 exercises for 3 sets. And I would just record in my journal how much weight I would use and how many reps, and then progressively overload, because that's what my dad did. He didn't really do much of drop sets or anything like crazy like that. So I basically did that split for about 3 to 4 years. And then recently, when I just decided like I want to make some more gains, I changed to a 5 day split because I really did love being in the gym and lifting, and I wanted to do it more often. I love how it makes me feel afterwards. And so now my split is kind of complicated. I don't honestly have it memorized, but yeah, so it's kind of changed and evolved, but I still pretty much do 5 exercises, 3 sets for about everything. And my sessions only take like an hour long.
That's pretty good. I mean, yeah, and that's another myth that people have too, where it's like, oh, I got to be in the gym for like 2 to 3 hours a day if I want to, get really ripped and stuff. It's like, no, it's about the quality, not the quantity. So yeah, that's another thing that's just so many people struggle with. But I also love to talk genetics on this podcast because everyone's on Instagram and social media these days, and it's, oh my God, I want his arms, I want her abs, I want their back. People just don't understand that you can only be the best version of yourself. And so many times I've had to almost like shake people down and be like, you don't know how that person got to the way that they look. I mean, it could be just their genetics. It could be, the amount of hard work that they put into it. But on top of that, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just lags behind that they have to train to oblivion to get it to catch up. What were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
So to be honest, my I didn't really see a whole lot of muscle definition for the first like 4 years of lifting because I mean my body fat percentage was just naturally higher or healthy. And so, I mean, I couldn't really see my muscles. I just based it all off of strength. So, in that case, my legs have always lacked strength, like always. And I mean, I can't tell you why. And I also really do have a bad back. So, deadlifts and squats were just like nightmares for me. But my shoulders and like my biceps, they have no problem. Upper body is totally cool. But then lower body, different story. I have to work so hard to build those muscles.
So you're basically like the typical guy where it's upper body's fine and good to go and lower body's, yeah, where it's the same thing for me too. I'm 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just absolutely shot where I could inject pure muscle into them and they wouldn't gain an ounce. I mean, it's just not happening for me. But I love to ask that because, so many people have so many different answers when it comes to that. But I mean, how have you been mixing things up with your nutrition? Because that's one thing where it's like that's 80 to 90% of this lifestyle and so many people do not understand that.
Yeah, so for the first like 4 years of my lifting, I didn't care about nutrition at all. I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't care. I just intuitively ate. I didn't even know what a calorie was. I I was a normal kid. And then I started watching this YouTuber, Greg Doucette. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yep. And so his recipes and his way of like dieting really intrigued me because although like I was at a healthy weight and everything, I was like, dang, why can't you see these muscles? Like I've been lifting for 4 years. What's going on? And then, I researched properly and then, I was like, oh, calorie deficit. So I slowly did one of those and I like cleaned up my diet a lot. Basically just swapping out the little Debbie's and, certain peanut butter and stuff and chicken parmesan at restaurants. And I really started like making my own food. Like I had oatmeal for the first time when I was like 15 and scrambled eggs and I really do love cooking. So it wasn't that difficult, but in the beginning it was difficult to pick up on. But yeah, basically for the past like 2 or 3 years I've just been eating a lot of whole foods and acknowledging that those whole foods do fuel you a lot better than a little Debbie. Because at dance and stuff, sometimes I would just feel sluggish. That's when I first started to see like ab definition was when I switched to a more 80/20 diet. So
Yeah, and yeah, it's always evolving too, so it's like you're always gonna have to make changes. But That's just yeah. I mean, and for so many people, it takes them so long to really develop that. So it's yeah, it's again, you really. I just got to rename this podcast really trial and error because that's really what we talk about the most because that's really all it is in health and fitness. But what were your friends and family's reaction like when you really started to put on some size, like when you were like 16 or so? What was their opinion of it? Because that's always I always find that fascinating.
Um, Sometimes they get annoyed that I'm so health conscious. I hate
Oh my
those
God,
words.
Abby's going to the gym again. Oh my God, she's got to eat that. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah, some people act like I secretly hate my diet and I hate the foods and they feel bad like, "Oh, she has to eat that salad." But no, like if you genuinely love how the foods make you feel and I don't really see a problem with it. So, at restaurants, like I would always get chicken nuggets and fries, just always. I was that kid, that girl. And so like now I just get like grilled chicken, maybe sweet potato or a salad, like and that's basically all I get at restaurants. And so the comments from family sometimes are kind of like not necessarily annoying, but just they almost feel bad for me, and I don't really understand that. Like, you should feel happy for me that I care about my body a lot, but and also there's another part of it, like, yeah, I will indulge, like, Christmas, I I ate all the desserts, and then the comments that went with that, they're like, well, some of my family members already decided that, "Oh, I wasn't gonna eat that. Abby won't have that." Like, how do you know? I have learned balance, and so I do still indulge, and I don't completely hate my life because I eat healthy.
yeah. Absolutely. And at what point in your journey did you decide, hey, I should start an Instagram page to really help and inspire others?
That was a year ago, pretty much exactly a year ago. I wanted to make an Instagram to kind of promote my fitness and show it because on the WWE application, there's spots to link your socials. So your Instagram, YouTube, and I didn't have any of that. And so I was like, all right, I want to get ahead of the game. I want this to be the proof that I weightlift and just to see kind of how it would evolve was interesting. So I changed my personal Instagram to a fitness and I told everyone to unfollow it because they were from school and stuff, but I mean, some of them stuck around. And yeah, at that time, I had probably like 500 followers, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, I that's the same thing I told my friends when I started, the podcast, Instagram page. I was like, don't follow that. Keep following my personal one. I don't want you to be on there and to be like my only fans at first. So it's great that you were able to do that. But also, I mean, just with all the things that have been happening, with your journey. I mean, I saw that you posted a photo of like your transformation from last year to this year. What has been probably the number one thing that you think has really impacted you the most? Because you've put on a significant amount of size just in this last year alone.
Yeah. So my journey is like literally all over the place. I started out really petite and everything, and then like puberty took its course, and like I was a healthy weight, but just a little insecure and everything. And then I started dieting, and I was really confident, still really healthy. And then like I got injured and I got really sad and everything, and I suffered through like disordered eating, and that's what got me to my point last year. And so I just really was not taking care of my body. I was so mad at the world and everything. And then what was the question again?
So what would you think was the most significant thing that impacted you to make you get have that massive change from last year to this year?
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of finally it was when the virus hit and everything that I sort of like looked at myself and I was like, wake up. Your dreams are not going to come true if you continue to just shrink and shrink. And it was no way to live. It was not sustainable. And I was so inspired by other people in the fitness community because I was still on Instagram and I still had people that I admired like Greg Doucette, and I also was really into bodybuilding, and so like Chris Bumstead's YouTube channel really helped me, and seeing how like all the bodybuilders would just properly use food as like a tool to grow. So I started like tracking my macros and like slowly reverse dieting and progressively overloading at the gym and actually training hard. And that so I would say like the proper use of food as a tool would be the number one.
Well, yeah, and that just becomes so much more important when you really realize that food, yeah, it should be used for fuel and for all that, and let's be honest, it tastes good as well. But I mean, one of the most important things when it comes to this healthy and fit lifestyle is cardio, even though I hate to just even say that word because, I hate cardio more than life itself. Now, don't get me wrong. When I say cardio, I mean running. When I'm talking about just like walking on a treadmill, I can do that every day for like 10 hours. But what is your relationship with cardio like?
So I would say I hate cardio. I'll just say it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. But there was one point in my life where I did do a lot of cardio, and that was when not a lot, but like I would say 3 days a week, maybe 30-minute sessions. And looking back, I don't know how I did that. It seemed miserable. But I would log my cardio and like minutes performed, calories burned, only because it was a good measurement to like, are you getting better? And so I did have a cardio log and I would do the elliptical, but that was like my sophomore year of high school, maybe a little bit of junior year. And then when I got injured and I like was malnourished, I stopped doing cardio because I could not even do 5 minutes. And now I probably should do a little more cardio just for my heart health. But I really love walking and cycling. I recently just ran a mile to see how I would do, and it felt like I was getting stabbed in the heart the entire time. But my time was like 7:40, which isn't terrible, but it was painful.
Yeah, that's still better than me, but like I'm one of those people where I'm good for distance, I'm not good for time. So like yeah, I can do an 8-minute mile for like 10 straight miles, but like you'll never get me to do like a 6-minute mile just for like 1 mile. But yeah, that's just me. But yeah, especially with this pandemic where I mean we have a treadmill downstairs where I've been using that up, a little bit too much. But the most important thing when it comes to probably your overall life and especially in health and fitness is sleep. And it's not talked about nearly as much as it should. I mean, for anyone that disagrees with that, I always say try to pull an all-nighter and then go and work out the next day. I did that in college twice and I lasted about halfway through my workout and I was like, okay, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I got to go home and get some sleep. But what is your sleep schedule kind of look like? Because I mean, for so many people they differ. I'm more of a night owl where I tend to sleep a lot later and then I get up, more into the day. But currently, where are you at right now? Because especially in health and fitness, I mean, your sleep becomes 10 times more important than if you were just the average Joe that doesn't work out.
Yeah. I would say that this kind of influencer lifestyle, if you will, has actually hurt my sleep a lot. I like go on my phone before bed and sometimes it keeps me up way past when I should. And so that's something that I'm working on is to put the phone down by at least 9:30 and try to get a quality night's sleep because recently I've been up till like 11:30 just like responding to messages and everything, and I just get so caught up in the phone and everything. So that has definitely tampered with my sleep. So, and it hasn't always been like that. I in the past had been pretty good at like putting the phone down at like 9:30 and being fine. So that's something I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I go to bed, much, much later than that. So at least you're trying to do that with, getting, an earlier amount of sleep. And that's great as well. But I mean, especially in this fitness industry where it's always ever evolving, and, people are always finding new ways how to get in shape. And, it seems like every day there's like 1,000 new inventions on, oh, use this and you'll get in shape quicker, or oh, do that. How are you sort of able to wade through all that and just, realize that, like, hey, the method that I'm using is working? Because especially on social media, I feel that there are so many temptations for people on, like these quick weight loss like schemes and stuff where it's like, oh, just do this and you'll be fine. How are you able to sort of just get that out of your head? Because a lot of people struggle to, just remain focused on their goals.
Yeah, so being engulfed in social media all the time and with friends and everything, they're all talking about social media and what they see. What really keeps me grounded is my dad because he hadn't had social media growing up and he's gone through lifting and almost everything like bulking, cutting. So whenever my head is going astray, he kind of like pulls me back to the roots. And he's a very knowledgeable guy, and so I trust everything that he says. So definitely just going through something yourself and experiencing it and how simple, certain things are like a calorie deficit to lose weight. You don't need fat burners or anything or an ab roller to get abs. It's as simple as being in a slight calorie deficit. That's it. And so sometimes people don't realize that or they think that, someone's abusing this or that, but it's really simple. So my dad definitely keeps me in the real world.
Yeah, well, and another technique that I love to talk about because I've heard about it so many times and I've used it myself is the mind to muscle connection. Do you like to incorporate that a lot in your training?
Yes, I do. And I didn't even know that existed until about a year. So definitely utilizing that for the exercises that I do struggle with, like squats I've mentioned, and all of my lower body lifts. I've really been trying to be in tune with my muscles and looking at my form properly to kind of help every any in any way I can to like shuttle all the work to my lower body and to do things properly.
Yeah, I mean, and good luck with those lower body mind to muscle connection workouts because I had one of those and I took 3 steps out of my bed the next morning and I almost fell down where I was like, yeah, okay, this is, it's a lot. And for anyone who's like more interested in that, I've talked about it a ton, so go and look that up. But yeah, it's one thing that I think really differentiates a lot of people is, if you're able to focus on that. And it's going to take you a while too to develop it. You're not going to develop a mind to muscle connection overnight. It's a lot of, trial and error. And again, if you're my age or her age, we live in that generation where, everyone wants everything now and they want it yesterday. So this is not a lifestyle that you're going to want to get into because, it's not going to happen overnight. But I mean, I bet your friends, come to you with like all these myths and stuff about the lifestyle and everything. What is one myth that you think that you are most commonly asked about when it comes to like friends or getting asked advice on?
I mean, a common myth is definitely surrounded by the diet and what I eat. They think that I have all these foods cut from my diet and I never eat certain foods or that I all I eat is salads. When that is not true, I have French toast, almost every day, and I have, like, these Greek yogurt bowls that I'm obsessed with, and my diet is not boring, and I love it, and sometimes my friends have just come to me really struggling and like, "I can't eat all this salad all day," and I'm like, "Girl, you don't have to. For one thing, you need protein." And oh, definitely carbophobes, but I mean, I know the keto diet is trendy, and even my mom has, like, done it for a couple weeks, and I mean, I'm eating like 250 grams of carbs a day on average. Like, I don't see a problem. Carbs are fuel. And so it definitely hurts when people bring the myths to me and they're like suffering for no reason because food is a tool and you can utilize it in any way to reach your goals.
Well, absolutely, and that brings me into the myth that I talked to you about before we started recording. And I mean, it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram, but there's still, so many women that have that fear that if they walk into the gym and they touch one weight, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And it's like, first of all, I would spend my entire life savings to train with you. Then you'd probably be the first ever trillionaire. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And I bet you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
Um, I kind of did have that fear at first just because like I mentioned before, I'm a dancer and I was surrounded by girls with like small frames and everything and I was scared that oh no, I'm going to blow up and I'll look so weird on stage, which like if anything muscles have helped a ton in dance and you don't blow up in size. Muscle takes a long time to build And so that fear of getting bulky, I can see where it comes from, but it's just it never works out that way. I've never seen someone go from like this to like really bulky in like
And if it
2
does get
months.
and if it does, give me a call because I want to talk to you. And I'll spend my entire life savings to train with you. Then and every one of my guests would too. Yeah, you would be the most prized possession on the planet. Then you'd probably get like kidnapped by the government and they do test on you to be like, how did they do that? So, yeah, if that was the case, you are definitely one in a billion or basically a trillion. But on top of that, I mean, one thing that I think impacts women so much more positively than men is that confidence boost that working out gives you. I mean, we have heard hundreds of stories on this podcast of women who have made life changes. It's really helps them become maybe even a little bit more assertive. But how have you personally taken that confidence boost that working out's given you and use it to impact your life in a positive way?
So, yeah, the confidence boost is definitely something that you have to experience. I think you can't just talk about it and expect people to understand and try it. It's You have to experience it for yourself. So, you get that rush of adrenaline and whatnot and all the endorphins after lifting. And a lot of people ask me, how are you so motivated? How are you so disciplined? And I remember that feeling after every lift, after every workout. I always feel better. And so, confidence is something that's so tricky with women in society and men in society. I don't think that's talked about enough. But just that feeling of confidence that you don't get often from social media when you're constantly getting comparisons. And there's a lot of things in life that can make you feel bad about yourself, but for me, lifting was finding that one thing that you can build yourself up, and seeing that happen through yourself is just it's really inspiring to others, and it uplifts yourself. So
One of the things that I did when I started, well, actually, so it was actually about a year ago today. I posted a thing on my Instagram saying, what is one body part that people are looking forward to growing the most this next year? And, I had like arms, shoulders, abs, legs, calves. I had like 10 different choices, and arms won by like 15% because I think I have a lot of guys that listen to this. And for 18 years old, holy crap, you have some guns on you. So, what does an arm day look like for you?
so I do split my arm days up. I have a bicep and tricep, and then I have one dedicated to shoulders because I don't know. I really love the look of like Sarah Connor, like full on shoulders. So for those days, I will do like lateral raises, a lot of variations with the dumbbells, whether that's front, side, bent over, because a lot of people neglect the rear delts, but they're very important. So do your bent over lateral raises, people. So I will do those, and I'll do shoulder presses, Arnold presses, whether that's with the dumbbells, or we do have a machine in our basement, like that you sit down and press. But I personally like dumbbells. I don't know, it just feels more old school to me. I don't like to use a lot of machines and cables. So I really do stick to a lot of dumbbell and barbell exercises. I don't really mess with the cables a lot, but yeah.
No, and that's great too. And I mean, a lot of people forget the triceps too. That's one thing that I always like to tell people is like, don't forget those because that's 75% of your arm, and if you have really nice triceps, it can really make up for a lot of other deficiencies, like if you don't have nice arms. But yeah, so everyone don't forget those. But I mean, there's so many different things that come into this lifestyle that, people don't understand. And what would you say is probably the one thing that you get, people don't understand as much that you wish that people would understand? If they followed you or if they were close to you, what is one thing that you wish that they would understand more that would really help, maybe not make things so hard on you just with them?
I think people, for some reason, a lot of people are hooked on quick fixes. And I wish that people would understand that things take time and it's okay for them to take time. You are not going to build noticeable amount of muscle in 2 months unless if you're literally a newbie beginner. And it's a part of the process to feel the process, to go through the motions every day, to be consistent. And it is okay if you do not wake up the next day and see gains. That's not how it works. And that's how you build discipline and a good relationship with yourself, is just to trust the process, trust everything that you're doing. And it's okay if things take longer, if your goals aren't being reached as fast as you like, because I mean, you might just have an unrealistic goal. So definitely, people, friends, family, they come to me and they ask, how do you get from my body to your body? And it's like, well, it just doesn't work like that. Everyone's journey is so unique, and things just, they genuinely take time, and you have to be willing to put yourself through it every day, make habits and form a schedule and live by it. And it's a lifestyle, and if you do have a couple bad days, it's okay. So many people come up to me and are like, oh no, I screwed up my diet for a day, I didn't track this, I binged or whatever. And like, what do I do? Get right back into your routine. You should want to get back into the routine because you love what you're doing, what you're eating so much. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
No, absolutely. And yeah, it's so many people just have that myth that, as if you quit for one day, that you're done then. You just can't go back. And it's like, no, you're going to need to take rest days and you're going to need to deal with all that. And how do you personally deal with rest days? Because that's something that a lot of people that we've had on this podcast really struggle with, because when you have that mindset, that sort of, health and fitness mindset, I mean, your body just wants to be active, all the time, and always get a workout in. And it's sort of like me with my working out and with my podcasting, where if I'm not doing something podcast related in a day, I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. But how do you deal with that mentally? Because for so many people, that is a mental crux that they just sometimes can't seem to get over.
I mean, on rest days, like today, actually, I do miss lifting. It takes a lot for me to not go to my basement and pump some iron and feel good
You're
about
you're just
myself.
you're just trying really hard not to curl that purse around you and stuff like that when you're just walking around the room and stuff.
Yeah, it's so tempting, but I I remind myself that it's for the better. Giving yourself proper rest and recovery is just as important as putting in effort during your lifts. It's the same thing. And like you mentioned before, sleep is very important. So on rest days, I do try to prioritize my sleep. Sometimes I'll even take a nap. And I just remind myself that it's part of the process. And don't get tripped up on it, even though, you do miss lifting and you want that quality time with your dad and stuff, but you can get it in other ways. And yeah, just realizing the importance of rest days and that they are completely necessary and okay if you want to optimize your muscle growth. So in the past, I kind of took a lot of rest days, but now it's like kind of the opposite, where I'm utilizing the rest days and realizing their importance and like that they do actually have significance. So that's kind of my approach with the rest day mentality, is that it's going to be okay, just one day at a time, focus on that goal, what you need to do that day. And if it's rest, that's fine. It's a part of the process.
Yeah, and that is a great answer. But now we're gonna get into the real elephant in the room, the coronavirus, because it's been one thing that has impacted our lives in more ways than we could have ever imagined. And I mean, with the gym shutdowns and everything, and I, like you, luckily have a little setup downstairs. I had to move back in with my parents due to this, but they have a nice setup downstairs, so I'm able to get a workout in. But how did you deal with all this? Because especially at your age, I mean, like you said, you're a senior in high school, even though you take all college classes, but still, I mean, you're at that age where it's like this is affecting people your age, I think, especially harder than most other people. But how have you been dealing with this? Because it's just been a funky year that we've had.
Yeah. So before the pandemic hit, my dad and I had been going to a gym, and we were very happy there. We love that gym. It was kind of grungier, old school gym that we like. We don't really like polished and posh gyms. And I mean, even though we had a pretty adequate home gym in our basement, we still loved going to this gym. And so then the virus hit and the gym shut down, and eventually it did close permanently. So they could have been open right now, but it didn't make it out alive. The all the financial stuff just kind of came crashing down. So it closed and forced me to start lifting in my home gym permanently, like I had been for the first year of my lifting. And that kind of worried me at first because I was like, I have this Instagram page. Everyone takes videos at a nice gym. What am I going to do? The quality, it looks like 1983 down there. But I eventually got used to it and back in my groove with the home gym. But it was definitely hard. And just everything surrounding that year, my dad and I just bought tickets to WrestleMania in Tampa, Florida. And that got canceled. And I cried, and we had tickets to the Arnold Classic Expo, and the expo was canceled, but luckily we still got to go to the finals. Literally right before everything really shut down. That was like the last week in March. And so I got to see Arnold from a distance, and that was enough motivation for like the next 4 months to keep pushing. And so definitely when the virus hit, it was kind of my chance to step back and focus on new goals on strength training and muscle building and utilizing food for fuel and energy. So, I mean, there's positives and negatives to everything. Obviously, it was really hard for me being so like disconnected with everyone. I think everyone can kind of relate to that. And then getting used to it was also weird. Like this thing just keeps extending. Like when is this ever going to end? But um yeah, that's mainly how the pandemic affected me. It's forced me to go back to my roots and kind of focus on the basics and what's really important. But it was definitely devastating to have everything canceled in my dance competitions, WrestleMania, the Arnold. It was a lot.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too, like with dance too, I found it fascinating how you mentioned that like a lot of dancers, like they're known for having those petite bodies that they're muscular but they're not big. How do you feel that gaining all this muscle has impacted you? Because you said like it does impact you in a more positive way than people feel. But have you seen like a very considerable notice of change like in your dancing since you have put on some size?
Yes, I would say so. And it's really interesting because you think that like the bigger you are, the more sluggish you'll be, but that's really not true when there's a quality foundation.
Literally,
And
unless you look like Arnold, you probably won't be sluggish. Now, if you're that big as Arnold, then yeah, you probably will be. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's not. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but like on stage, just I mean, utilizing all the muscles and like from training squats and everything and actually training my quads, it's just amazing how much like my leg strength has improved even though the physical changes are not there. Unfortunately, the quality muscle has been built, and it's just the difference in dance quality is kind of amazing, and something that I wish that all dancers could experience because it is very cool to finally feel strong and utilize different muscles in ways that you hadn't before.
Well, and I gotta add too, you are young, so sometimes people it takes a while for them to develop a significant amount of muscle. Now, if you were like 40 pounds heavier, full of muscle at like 18, I'd be like, okay, what's going on here? But like, so yeah, you got to take some time with it too. I mean, because you don't see that many, especially 18-year-old girls. But yeah, but that's great that you've noticed, all those changes and stuff. But now I gotta ask, being that I'm a little bit of a wrestler fan myself, who's your favorite wrestler?
um like of all time or current?
We can do both.
Okay, well, all time is kind of hard to answer, kind of like asking your favorite child, but CM Punk was a favorite. Just his charisma, just the whole package that he brought. But also, my dad and I really love watching The Rock and all of his. I mean, how can you not? He's The Rock, right? Um, and also another female favorite is not another female favorite. A female favorite that I heavily look up to is AJ Mendez. And I mean, her and CM Punk getting married, just like I
Yep.
love it. But yeah, those would be my favorites.
I mean, I personally have to go with the Macho Man just because he was the craziest guy out there, and I loved him. But yeah, yeah, I'm a huge, and plus being in Minnesota where a lot of wrestlers come from. I mean, it's a pretty big deal here, so that's great as well. But two questions that I like to ask before we wrap things up here are, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Abby, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the health and fitness lifestyle, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing that you would most likely to see change?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. Um, I would definitely like to see all the fad diet advertisements just go away into oblivion. Even though that's a really basic answer, I think it really just harms a lot of young people who don't necessarily have the knowledge that think that they have to go keto to lose weight when no, that diet is not even created for weight loss in the first place. It's just kind of frustrating and like gluten-free stuff and just all the fad diets, all the quick fixes. I would want them to go away because I mean another point is that to experience the process is something so rewarding and I think everyone should go through it and not try to find like why would you want to cheat in anything in life? I think go big or go home. We're only here once. You might as well just go at it with everything that you've got, whether it's the diet or the exercise or anything. So that would be my answer.
Oh, absolutely, and I totally agree with that too. Where I mean, so many people want these quick fixes, but it's not going to happen. And if it does, it's probably a very unhealthy quick fix for you. So watch out for those as well. But everyone thinks that, especially if you're like really in shape, that every day must be like a walk in the park for you when it comes to working out, and no one is ever like that. I mean, everyone's going to have those days where you don't feel like working out, where your body's just sore, and where you might not have gotten the right amount of sleep, or just a million things come into play. But how do you deal with those days mentally? Because that's what really separates, I think, the really healthy people from the people that are just eh, they're a little healthy, but they're not. Just is it the just that mental willpower? But how do you sort of deal with it on those days when you're just basically telling yourself like, oh my god, I don't want to work out, like I'm so sore and stuff?
I think of the future. I think of where I want to be, and I've been telling people since I was 11, I'm going to be in the WWE one day. And I am a woman of my word, and I have instilled self discipline. And I have this feeling that that career is for me, and I'm not going to stop till I reach it and till I'm able to perform in front of an audience again. And so I keep those people who I have inspired in the back of my mind, and I keep my future goals ahead of me, and I push through. I get past those days, take it one day at a time.
And that's great. And everyone, 5 years from now, be on the lookout for Abby in the WWE. I think we'll find her, and then we'll have her on too when she's a WWE superstar. And who knows, she probably just beat the crap out of Charlotte Flair or someone. So who knows with that. But again, you guys, we cannot thank Abby enough for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for coming on, Abby. It was great talking to you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this so much.
All right. Well, I couldn't think of a better way to end this because you are known for your arms. Can you give us a flex? And then everyone just, she's 18 years old. This is just, look at that.
Uh,
That's,
Writing
yeah.
is kind of bad. Whatever.
Oh, it's kind of bad. Well, we'll work on a thumbnail right after we're done here so everyone can get a good one. But at least, again, you guys, everyone, thank you so much and have a great day.